This video is an introduction to working with images in InDesign. Now there's lots of different ways you can bring images in InDesign, so I'm just going to go through some of those. You will probably be used to file place, but you can also bring in images straight from a file, a folder. So I can just pull in an image. It sits on my cursor. And then I have two choices. If I simply click, then that image comes in at its full size. If I click and drag, it will fill the frame that I make. And by clicking and dragging, it holds the ratio as well, so it won't distort it. In addition, I can change the size of that image by using the handles, but I do have to be in the transform tool to do that, or I can hold command, click, and that will allow me to manipulate the size as well. So I'm holding down the command key whilst being in the move tool over here. So that is two ways this way. I prefer to work in Bridge. Now the problem is Bridge is really clunky and huge, and you'll see me doing this all the time. But what's really great is you get a really nice visual on what you're doing. What's quite exciting is they have reintroduced Mini Bridge into InDesign. So Window Mini Bridge will give you a more condensed version of Bridge, and that will allow me to look around the pictures. So the same thing applies. I can bring in the picture, sits on my cursor, can click and let it come in full size, or click and drag, which will set it to the frame size I've dragged to. That's basic stuff. The advantage of bringing in by place is that you, although it's slightly more clunky, you get some more options. So for instance, replace selected item. So let's say I have placed an image. Same things apply, click or click and drag. And whilst this is selected, I change my mind. So I go File, Place. I can find another image to put inside, and it will fulfill the same size with this image whilst this is ticked. And by default, it's always ticked. So I'm going to click Open, and you'll see it will replace it. If you don't want to replace it, if you're halfway through it and you realize you've got something selected, just untick it, and then it won't replace the image. So I'm going to put that one in now. And you can see it's not going to replace it. It's going to allow me to draw a fresh frame. Bringing images in by those methods means we're just not really in control of them. If you were designing for a magazine or newspaper, you would have, maybe you would work with your grid, and you would have a series of placements. So this tool here is the rectangle frame tool. Now everything comes in a frame in InDesign, and you would have maybe a designed. So we have a design something like this, and we're going to bring in some images. So I'm going to open up my mini bridge, which is targeted on my folder, choose the images that I want to work with, and I can bring in all three images at the same time. So I'm going to bring in these three, drag them over, and then I can simply place them in the frame. Now they'll come in at full size, and what that actually means is, if we just take a look in detail at one of these, what it actually means is the picture is actually this size, okay, and we are just looking at a cropped version of that picture. So you have a number of frame fitting devices, and it actually will be more obvious if I use the same image to just take you through those. Brought in the same image half a dozen times, and the first one is just to show you the original. Okay, so just zoom out here and you can see it's quite an enormous image. It's coming in and flooding this frame. One of the benefits of this little device here, you have a button device in the middle of each image, and it means not only can you see the scale of it, you can actually scale it down yourself, okay, and you can move the image around. So once you click the button, you get an opportunity to move things around. So in order to work with an image on this scale, I need some what's called frame fitting devices. So the first one I want to show you is up here, and it's fill frame proportionally. So what that will do is it will fill the frame proportionally. It will find one edge and fit that edge in. And in this case, if I click it, what it's done is it's fitted the height into the frame proportionally. So it's not distorting the ratio, but it does mean that some of the image is still cut off. So it's cropping some of the image. Of course, I could change the frame size, because framing is all about cropping. But if I'm working for a rigid publication, I won't be able to do that. I have a rigid design to work to. So then clicking that button and moving things around is my only option, and I can get a nice image by doing that. This next one, if we look at fit content proportionally, that's going to take all the content and fit it into the frame. But so there's nothing else beyond the frame. But unfortunately, what it does mean is that because this is a long, thin shape, my frame is too fat for this image, and so there's white edges. And so again, I could click in the middle and I could make changes that way, but I'll just leave it there so you can see the problem it might cause me. The third one along is fit content to frame. Now that's going to create distortion because it's going to cram everything in. There's nothing beyond the frame, but of course it's the original image is the wrong ratio, and therefore it distorts. So be careful with that one. This one is fit frame to content. So I'll come and do it to this one actually. So if I choose fit frame to content, the frame will grow to the size of the image. And obviously that's going to cause me a lot of problems. So I'm going to leave that one switched off. And then this one is just simply centering the content. So it won't do anything at the moment because the content is naturally centered. But let's say I had been working on it. Let's say I decided to manually reduce the size, and I'd been moving things around and then didn't really know where I was in the picture. I could center it and it will jump, put the center of the image back in the center of my frame. So that's basic image frame fitting. And that comes in useful when you're laying out long documents. But in the next video, I'm going to show you some nice tricks in which you can work with images and create multiple frames.